Alright, this is part 2 of section 3.1. We are trying to evaluate f of -1. So we're going to go to our graph and go to -1. And looks like our y value is 0 there. And then we're going to try to find an x value for y being -4. Okay, so y being -4, go down to -4, go to this graph right here, go up. Well, let me draw that a little better. So here's -4. We go to our graph, and looks like that is going to be straight up right there. So that looks like that is halfway between 0 and -1. So looks like f of -1/2 is equal to -4. Now let's talk about a one-to-one function. So a one-to-one function is a function in which each output value corresponds to exactly one input value. So really what we're saying here is no x values and no y values are repeated if we're looking at a one-to-one function. If we're just looking at a function, then no x values are repeated. Okay, so we're going to look at this and see if it's a one-to-one function. So first I'm going to look at my x values and see if there's any repeats. I have a 1, 2, 3, and a 4. Doesn't look like I have any repeats. Then I'm going to go to my y's and see if I have any repeats there. 4, 3, 2, and 1. So it looks like this is a one-to-one function. Now, something called the vertical line test. This can be used to determine whether a graph represents a function. So we can draw any vertical line that intersects a graph more than once. So if that happens, if it intersects a graph more than once, then the graph is not a function. Okay? So if we look at these, so I'm drawing horizontal lines, and I can draw a bunch of them. Okay? Bunch of them. With any of those, or I think it says horizontal, I meant vertical line. With any of these vertical lines, the graph is only been hit once. If it's hit more than once, then we know it's not a function, but since it's only being hit once, yes, this is a function. Okay, so this shape right here, this little shape, that is a function. Now this one over here, notice I hit it once and twice with my vertical line. So we know that that is not a function, and same thing with this one. Okay, so we are hitting this graph or crossing this graph more than once on each of these, so we know that that function right there is, or that, sorry, that graph right there is not a function. Now something called the horizontal line test, we use this to determine if we have a one-to-one function. So the same thing applies. If you intersect the graph only once, well then it's a one-to-one function. If it hits it more than once, then it is not a one-to-one function. So like these. Okay, so I need a horizontal line now. Okay, notice this one intersects once and twice, so this one is not a one-to-one function. Now this one, wherever I go, the horizontal line only intersects the graph only once, so this one is a one-to-one function. And then same right here, everywhere I have a horizontal line, we are only intersecting the graph at one point, so this is also a one-to-one function. Okay, now these toolkit functions, this is a constant function. Know that it doesn't change. It just looks like this straight line right here. So that would be a constant function. This right here where it goes through the origin, that is f of x equal to x. We call it an identity function because for all the whatever y is, that's also what x will be. So if x is 1, y will be 1. If y is 2, x will be 2. Like you're seeing right here. Okay, they're always the same, or they identical. This right here is an absolute value function. It always looks like a v. This is x squared. We call it a quadratic function. It always looks like a u. Now, if there's a negative in front of it, same thing with this one right here. If there's a negative in front of it, it will flip down, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. This is what we call a cubic function. This is a reciprocal function right here. This is a reciprocal squared function. This is a square root function. This is a cube root function. And this is a circle. Okay, so if we wanted to go through these, is this a function? Well, all of the ones I just talked about are functions, so they will pass the vertical line test. But does this pass the horizontal line test? Well, no, it's not a one-to-one function because the vertical or horizontal line is crossing here and here and here and here and here, everywhere that line is. So it is not a one-to-one function. This would be a one-to-one function. This would not be a one-to-one function. Same thing for this one. This would not be a one-to-one function. We already looked at this one. This one would be a one-to-one function. Now this one looks like it would be a one-to-one function. Now this one would not be a one-to-one function. This one would be a one-to-one function. And looks like this would be a one-to-one function. And this would not be a one-to-one function right here. So these toolkit functions, it's good to know the function, and I mean the function and the corresponding graph to that function, the very basics of it. Because when we get to another section, we're going to be doing transformations, and we will be modifying these functions just a little bit. So it's good to know what the initial appearance of these functions will look like. Okay. Determine if the graph is 1-to-1. Well, number one, is it a function? Okay, it passes the vertical line test anywhere I go. And also, let me get rid of that. It fails the horizontal line test, so this is not a one-to-one function. Okay, determine if the graph is 1-to-1. Well, number one, is it a function? Well, no, it fails because it passes more than once. So if it's not a function, it's definitely not a one-to-one function. Okay, is this a one-to-one function? Well, looks like it only hits the graph once for each of those. And this one was just a little bit off. Okay, so it looks like it's a function. So let's see if it's a one-to-one function. Looks like it's a one-to-one function. So this would be a one-to-one function. Okay, now determine if this is a one-to-one function. First of all, it does not pass the vertical line test, so we know it's not a function. And also, if we did the horizontal line test, it fails that one as well. So this one is definitely not a one-to-one function. It's not even a function at all. Okay, determine if this is a one-to-one function. Okay, I'm going to apply the horizontal line test. It fails right there. So we can go ahead and say that, hey, it's not a one-to-one function because it's not even a function. Okay, determine if this is a one-to-one function. Looks like it passes the vertical line test, so it is a function. Okay, well, it fails the horizontal line test, so this is not a one-to-one function.